Yes, today what I want to talk to you all about is bringing more of you into your breathwork offerings. This is where you can really bring the magic of what is lighting up within you. We've all been working with our breath and increasing the fullness of our being through this journey. So, we might also find that we're awakening creativity and new passions to come forth. So there's a lot of treasure here to be resourced, and I'll talk to you about ways that you can explore these other interests, these passions, these skills, these talents that you bring with you. And I like to begin by really doing a connecting practice for any kind of retreat or breath work or anything that I do. And in the Alchemy of Breath, we often do this by doing breaths together, and that's an excellent way. But today, in the spirit of the workshop, I'm going to bring in one of my practices, which is sacred chant. To connect us. So what I'd love for you to do is to embrace this. I've got a chant that we're going to work with, which is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. So what we'll be doing is we'll be taking some inhales and then just doing some deep breaths to start with, tuning in with ourselves, tuning in, with gratitude. Gratitude for this breath camp, for everything in our lives right now that is lighting us up. And then we'll breathe to an Om, and then I'll begin the chant. So I'll be playing a drone note for you while you do that breathing, and then I'll begin the chant. And it doesn't really work very well with Zoom for everybody to unmute. So I'd like everybody to stay muted, but to sing with me in your own space. Sing with yourself, and we'll all be connected, because when we do these practices, whether we're together in person or whether we're online, we have a quantum connection. I learned with healing work, with distance healing, that we actually are creating a connection that is quantum. We don't have to be in person with each other. And as we're all needing to work online at the moment, this is really important to own this understanding that we are connected wherever we are, like little lights that are connected on a grid all around the world. I've often thought it could be interesting if you did a map, like a constellation of where people were tuning in from, what kind of shapes would appear if you drew lines between them. It really could be like constellations. So let's get started now and find our connection with each other, find our way of being with each other. I'm going to play the harmonium. And first we'll just do some nice deep breaths together. And then I'll say breathe to Om. And then I'll begin the chant right after that. So I'm just wondering if there's somewhere I can put this where you can see it, just to remind you. Can you see that there? You won't be able to see me, but you can see the words, I hope. And that way, you'll be able to sing along quite easily. So, this chant, I want to explain to you first what it means too. It's Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. And the meaning of it is, may all beings be happy and free. And may the thoughts, words, and actions of our own lives contribute in some way to that happiness and to that freedom for all. So let's embody the meaning of this chant as we begin. Okay, beginning some deep breaths now. Inhaling your gratitude. everyone hear me all right? Great. Okay, here we go. Lauka samasta sukino bhavantu. Lauka samasta sukino bhavantu. Lauka samasta sukino bhavantu. Lauka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. So thank you very much for joining me. So I hope that you're feeling really settled into your bodies now. Yeah, there's so many different ways that you can create a connection. The other thing that I feel is really important is to do some kind of a grounding practice when people arrive. So this, you know, singing together can help to do that, but sometimes just really connecting with the earth. So I like to use sometimes a yoga kriya. You don't have to be a yoga teacher to teach people how to ground in, you know, with a yoga kriya. So we can do that right now, just getting started together. If you're in a seated position, you can be in a chair or on a bed or on the floor. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do circles around our root chakras. So inhaling as we go forward, going right to the edges, and exhaling back. And just using our chin or our heart to make circles around our root. And if you want, you know, you can do this maybe first, if everybody seems like they have a lot to let go of the day, you can start in an anti-clockwise direction and let that be an unwinding. And then after a few moments of that, you can pause the movement and you can start the other direction and really bring in the energies that you want to be present for you. And make sure you use your breath with it. Inhaling as you go forward, exhaling as you go back. Just letting your chin be fairly level with the ground. That's great. Now, just slow the circles down. Come back to center. Draw yourself up as if you have a cord that is just pulling you up all the way through your body from your root to your crown and up to the sky. And then just sit there for a moment and experience that. If you like, you can send roots down into the earth. So these are really important practices I value for beginning any kind of a session, whether it's a retreat or a breath work or any other kind of offering. And so let's get started straight in. If you have any paper and a pen handy, that could be useful. If your phone is nearby, you could write in your notes, or else you could just try and remember this. But there are some inquiries that I like to work with to discover the things that I would like to bring into an offering that I'm putting out into the world. And so this will help you mine your own resources for what could really have resonance, because we deliver best. What we will deliver best will have resonance with you. So it needs to be something that is meaningful. So the questions that I like, and I'll give you just a few moments to work with them, to think about them. And if you could even just note them down, you can work with them later. But the first one is, what do you love doing, and what are you good at that the world needs right now? Now this could be a practice, it could be a way of being, just like being good at listening, holding space, being very creative. So this could be skills or talents as well. The next question is, what is your unique medicine? Now this again could be talents and skills, but our wounds are often a very potent place to look. So if there's something that you've been working with, something that's come up for you, that you've discovered, this is where the juice will be often. And it's a good resource for themes and for aliveness in your expression. So these explorations can help identify much that we can work with and bring into our offerings as practical exercises, rituals, meditations, our musical choices, our use of language and metaphor. One of the other students in my T7 training gave a beautiful breath work that was using the metaphor of dance. And you know, you could work with a metaphor like that. And she was talking about the breath being a dance between heaven and earth, between all the parts of ourselves. And something like that, for example, could be preceded with some freestyle dance or some kind of, you know, musical exploration with our bodies. That was Paulina, and it was a very special offering. The other thing that I want to talk to you about is your creative process. And the best way for me to do this is just tell you what works for me. When I look at what I love to do and what I'm good at and what my medicine is, breathwork is top of the list now. But you know, there are many other things that we do that we can bring in. So whatever your personal practices are really good to bring into your creative process, into the container that you create to work within when you're designing whatever offering you're going to put out there. So I think it's really important to set the scene, to, you know, put on some music that we love, clear distractions, you know, make sure that we have the space and the time that we need to really drop in. Maybe light some candles, burn some scent, incense, maybe smudging, burning, you know, diffusing essential oils, anything like that. Maybe doing a breath work for ourselves, or a meditation to precede this, just to really help us drop into the zone. and make, also connect in, there's another question which I think is really important. You know, what is real and relevant for you right now? So yeah, you could put that with your other inquiries and start to work with, in your creative process, with what that is. What is really real and relevant for you now? What is inspiring you? What is moving you? And see if that's something that you can work with. So I'll share some of the things that I like to do in my offerings, whether I'm working in retreats or online work or one-to-ones. And then I'll explain a little bit of how I've brought those together in different offerings that I've given. So I like to look to my own practices for these things. So I work with yoga kriyas and pranayamas, meditation, particularly somatic meditations like the alchemy breath, yoga nidra, maybe visionary. It depends on the theme. And I love ritual and I love ceremony. So these are something that I often use as a container, like ceremony could be the container. And then within that, I might use ritual and I might use invocations within that as well. I love to dance. So because I feel it's important to have some kind of a grounding or movement within an offering. Sometimes it'll be freestyle dance. Sometimes it'll be, you know, a shaking practice. And if I do that, then I'll play with music with that as well. So when you're in this space, you know, you can ask yourself again another question: what wants to be offered through me right now? So just another question to really drop into and explore. And so this is usually when I start doing some writing. I start, you know, playing with my creative muse. I start, you know, getting curious and playful. And this may not be what I end up with, but I allow myself to start, you know, just writing down things that are coming to me in the moment, and I start working on my playlist. And so that then will start to form into something that I can begin to shape and refine. I'm sure that many of you work in this same way, and so I'm just sharing with you what I do, and then I'll explain to you some of the ways that has gone for me in what I do. So yeah, the other thing I like to do, and often emerges in this sort of brainstorming creative phase, is I like to use inspirational quotes or phrases or words that many of you do this as well, that you can drop like little seeds within the breath work. So often these are inspired by what's really relevant for me right now, whatever is inspiring me right now. And so these will either land and take root or they won't. And it really doesn't matter. Sometimes how you prepare the ground for these things can be very relevant. You know, so how you lead up to that, and the timing, and but it's understood that not everyone's going to resonate with this and with everything that you put out there. But I think it's fun to play with these things. The other thing that I've been learning from other breath workers that is really quite interesting to explore is that different styles of breath work can be mixed within the actual conscious connected breath experience that you're offering for people, that you're guiding and facilitating. And some of these have worked to great effect, and I've been exploring some of them myself. Pablo, one of my teachers in T7, recently in one of his breath works, introduced the 3-part breath, which is breathing fully into the belly and then into the chest. So it's like, and then an exhale. So, and then you can move that to an open mouth, like, so this was actually done in the build, in the climb. And I actually did it for the whole period, right up until we got to the peak, and had one of the most incredible breathwork experiences that I've had recently. It was really amazing. It became, you know, really visionary as I, you know, just like dropped off into that more spacious period. You know, it was really visionary, really profound. So this is one way you can play. Another one that I experienced when I was in the Bali breath camp was with Sophia. And Sophia and I are both advanced students of Dr. Joe Dispenza. And Sophia had the idea for her graduation breath work to bring in this breath that Dr. Joe uses. And I was really curious how she was going to integrate that. And she did it seamlessly. It was just beautiful. I was very familiar with this breath, so I really went for it. And it was really quite amazing. And this was actually just integrated in with a conscious connected breath. And then Christian yesterday brought in a trigger breath near the end of his breath work, which I thought was really interesting too. So these are some of the ways that you can, you know, explore and be flexible, because one of the things that I would really encourage you to do is just experiment. You know, do what you know, what is inspiring you, you know, see how it works. You can try it first on friends. Yeah, I would say these are really things that are worth doing. They can be really powerful. So let's see. Yeah, there's also ways that you can direct the breath in the body, just like as you do with the coherence breath, breathing into the heart. There is a breath that I learned from Dranvalo Melchizedek called the unity breath, where you're breathing in through the crown and the root at the same time and bringing that breath into the heart. So you can do them individually, breathing in through the crown, breathing from the root, and both, you know, bringing it to the heart, sending it up to the crown, bringing it back to the heart, down to the earth, or you can do these simultaneously. So this is something to play with, actually within the breath work as well. And another way is you could breathe, say, for example, up one leg. This is very similar to Nadi Shodhana, the breath work, where you're alternating. So you could breathe all the way up through one side of the body to the top, to the head, and back down, breathe it back out, down the other side of the body, and then breathe up that side of the body, and then back down that side. And you could just keep following this cycle and create a kind of a feedback. It's really interesting, I think, to play with these different styles of breath work. So let's see, you know, I'll go back now to how we bring in other modalities to what we do. Some of this is happening with all of you already. Most of you in your opening exercises are playing with other modalities. And I would just say keep experimenting with that. But when we only have an hour and a half for the full experience, sometimes, you know, it has to be a little bit minimalist. So the other thing I would suggest is that you maybe with your private clients, and I've even done this online where I've had sessions that lasted 2 hours or more. I have one friend who lives in Bali at the moment, who's another Alchemy of Breath facilitator, Kazenya. And Kazenya's sessions last around 4 hours when she's working one-on-one with someone. And her online breath works are often 2 hours or more as well. So when you have this, you know, amount of time to work with, there's a lot more that you can bring in, and you can go a lot deeper with people. So, you know, whether it's in your one-on-one sessions or your online breathworks, or even better, on retreats. And this is where I really want to spend some time, because I've been working in retreats, running my own retreats, running workshops for over 10 years. And I have pretty much always used other practices, all integrated together in the, I don't know, it was just a little over 10 years ago, I ran an art workshop, because I'm also an artist and an interior designer. And I was running an art workshop, which was under the umbrella of the Oxford City Council for Vulnerable Women. And so at the beginning of each of these workshops, I would do some movement and some vocal therapy, vocal practices to get the creative energies flowing. And so I recommend this for you to do for yourselves when you're trying to get creativity going, but also to bring these things into your offerings. And I'm going to, later on, I'm going to teach you a practice that you can work with for yourself particularly, and I'm quite happy for you to share it as well if you'd like to. But also for a while I was a trainer of body workers, and I would, again, at the start of each day, I would do some yoga, I would do some sacred chant, I would do some energy exercises, playing with energy, sensing it, feeling it, and you know, maybe another type of vocal practice as well. So we would have like an hour at the start of each day before we went into the rest of the training around the body work. And I really feel that this is really powerful for helping people to really tune into more of themselves. So in retreats also, for example, just since I've started doing breath work, I've worked on 3 retreats. There was a retreat that the first one was with my Earthwalk tribe in Michigan, and we were running a Dream Quest retreat that was very ceremonial. It was a camping retreat, and we were doing a lot of healing work using you know, the medicine wheel and the sweat lodge. There was like a vision quest, dream quest. There was a lot happening that weekend, and I was one of the facilitators there. And I did a breath work in the woods. And it's amazing how these things can be done. You know, I was completely out in nature. We did have a Wi-Fi signal, but I downloaded my breath, my playlist just in case. And all I had with me was my phone and some yoga mats and blankets and a Bluetooth speaker. And it worked really well. And the nature sounds added so much to the experience. So this is where you can play with sound and silence. You can, you know, if you're doing something outdoors, you can actually let the nature sounds, if you're in a location where you have beautiful sound, let that be part of the experience and let people tune into and land with that as well. It can be very inspiring, and it can be really good for helping people to really tune into presence and, you know, be where they are right now in their bodies. And so the next retreat that I worked on since I started offering breathwork out was a retreat in northern Italy for female entrepreneurs. This retreat was led by a very good friend of mine who's a business coach, and she was shaping this retreat around self-discovery, business skills, and hacks, and also well-being. And in this breath work, I offered two, I mean, in this retreat, I offered two breath work sessions, and they were timed so that they were working with her processes as well. And then I also offered a cacao ceremony there. So, you know, I really encourage collaboration. You know, find other people whose work you really admire and collaborate with them, because we can really support one another, and we can enhance each other's offerings as well. You know, I got a lot out of these retreats myself. And then what I offered was in support of what they were doing as well. So, you know, the themes that you're working with, the style of delivery, everything can be shaped to work with the theme of the retreat. And the other retreat that I did was a day retreat at my own home. And here you can really be playful and bring in a lot. And so this was a retreat around detox. And I used yoga and pranayama and sacred chant and breath work. You know, if you love to create space, if you love decorating, I mean, I love to create artistic spaces. So this is really fun for me, and it may be for you too, this idea of creating space. And you are all doing this, I'm sure, with your breath works, your sessions, and it's a magical part of it, something that you can really enjoy and get into. I like to use very sensory experiences too, so I try and, you know, work with vision, scent, touch, taste, smell, and of course the ethereal experience too, to make it very experiential for people that come. I'm also trained as a raw chef, so it was fun for me. I made fresh juices for everyone, which anybody can do, really. You can find recipes and you can make, you know, healing drinks for people. I made elixirs, and then I provided a raw lunch. So this is, you know, whatever it is that you love to do, you know, bring it together and shape your offering, you know, around this. And so now I think what I'll do is begin to move towards a practice that let's see if there's anything else. There's another thing I wanted to talk to you about before I move on. Going back to collaboration, I've also seen breath workers collaborate with other breath workers, and that can be really magical, because a lot of times different breath workers will have different specialities, different modalities that or different niches that they're particularly good at, that they particularly resonate with and like to work with. And so one of these is that I went to. In fact, it was my first breathwork retreat that I went to, and it was with 3 Alchemy of Breath trained facilitators, and one of them staff liked to work with shamanism, so that was more her style. Another one, Ben, was loved working with the shadow, and then the other one, Kim. There were 3 breath workers who did this retreat. Kim is a mentor on T9, I believe, and he is the dreamer. So what they called it was the shaman, the shadow, and the dreamer. And so they each were offering, you know, over this weekend, a couple of sessions each in their style. And, you know, they worked as a team together. They supported one another, encouraged one another. And this was really special. So I would really encourage you to try to do these kind of things with your, you know, the fellow students and breath workers that you have admired, whose style you think could complement your own. And yeah, just explore, experiment. So now, let me just check the time. Okay, so, wow, we're running out of time. Okay, there's one more thing I'd like to share, and Emily, you'll just have to cue me when you need me to stop. Okay, so there's a practice that I have called the 7 Sounds of Love, and what I'll do is I'll send you a PDF about this, but it's working with the chakra system, and it also works with the musical scale. So it's, this scale is like our song of life, and it's a metaphor for our journey through our lives. In India, there are Sanskrit sounds that correspond to each of the chakras, and I'll introduce you to these sounds. They're called the 7 steps, or the saptak. My teacher, who is founder of the Naked Voice, has called them the 7 sounds of love. So I think of it like a stairway to heaven, or a rainbow bridge, actually our human energy body as a rainbow bridge between heaven and earth. Essentially, the vibration of each chakra and the corresponding sound as we go up the scale is higher and more subtle, and our energetic interaction with one another should be accordingly sensitive. So my teacher, Chloe Goodchild, teaches these to all her students as an essential practice for embodying our voices with the fullness of our being and awakening our consciousness. These sounds resonate with and awaken the chakras, and they bring healing, purification, and balance on all levels. So she paired them with meditative movements, and I'll also send you a little video of that because I don't think we'll have time for me to demonstrate it. But I've used this in so many different workshop settings, and it's just a magical process. Even if you only use it for yourself, for your creative process, I really encourage you. So it goes through the musical scale with sounds, and I'll just demonstrate the sounds. It's going up through the chakras. So you start at the root chakra with sa, and it's sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, sa, ni, da, pa, ma, ga, re, sa. So I recommend when you do it, you start low within your range so that you don't sing up out of your range and out of reach for others if you're teaching it. We always return back down the scale to ground ourselves, because singing repeatedly up the scale is really great for meditation, but it's leaves you rather spacious for doing practical work and being grounded. So the first sound is for the element earth. And I'm just going to read through these quickly and touch on the key points, because I don't want to get off on a tangent. So the first sound, sa, relates to the root chakra, the element of earth. This base chakra sound represents the ground of your being, your seed self. It's a return to the source of our essential nature within the 0 point field. So it's like an immersion in a held oneness, like being in the womb, luminous darkness, unmanifest presence. So think of it like a babe in the womb, still one with the mother. So this is the root chakra. The next one is Ray, which is the element of water. And the chakra sound represents are beginning to emerge into the world of duality. So when a baby's born, it actually still perceives that it's one with everything, that everything is a part of it, and it's a part of everything else. At some point that starts to shift as it learns to navigate in the world of duality, and it's necessary actually for its own safety. But sounding this and working with this chakra is a kind of birthing. It's an awakening to the flow of creative life, nourishment, relationship, revelation, and the realm of emotions. So I like the imagery of the seed cracking open in the dark earth and sending a shoot up through and emerging, breaking through the soil and opening to meet the light of the sun, to receive nourishment and the light of life. So this is like what's happening with us as we grow up. So Ga is the element of fire. So this is with the solar plexus chakra. This solar plexus sound represents gathering energy and processing, like digesting, and the birth of the ego self and development of the will. So the child starts to connect with the fact that it becomes possessive. You know, you hear children say, that's mine, you know, and they start to connect with the idea that they are a person and that, you know, your mommy or daddy or auntie or uncle or friend. And so in balance, we have strength, courage, confidence, and good digestion. And out of balance, we can become egocentric, selfish, and have digestive discomfort and problems. It also represents our inner stability, our nourishment, and our feelings of worthiness. So then we come up to the heart chakra, and this sound, Ma, invokes the mother energy of loving devotion. So this is unconditional and generous, while at the same time can be quite fierce and protective. We open our hearts in a spirit of both giving and receiving here. And we begin to move from being self-centered to being centered. And our life begins to take on more purpose. My will, and here, my will becomes thy will here. So a closed heart is unable to fully give or receive and tends towards meanness. It could be overly self-protective and prone to some form of heartache. So yeah, so the next sound is Pa, and the element here is ether or space. This is the throat chakra right here, and Pa represents an awareness of our purpose and a sense of responsibility and willingness to reach out to others in service. It embodies the energies of power and fearlessness, and at the same time, complete vulnerability, like this, you know, like Christ on the cross. This is where we put ourselves out there, and we use our voices and our actions to affect change in the world. This is where you're all at. Healthy and in balance, we express ourselves well and authentically according to our truth. We speak powerfully from a place of stillness, and we both give and receive, becoming aware that our power comes from source, and we're willing to surrender to that power. We awaken to spaciousness and deep listening. And then the third eye chakra, Da, beyond earthly reality. The third eye represents our witness consciousness. It's non-judgmental, it's the seat of the eternal soul, and it knows only truth. Deep compassion is the nature of this chakra, and sounding Da awakens this compassion so that we're able to love what is without imposing our desires. Truth and knowledge from beyond earth-based reality is invoked. Then Ni, the crown, beyond the beyond, the breath away from oneness. This sound and chakra embody a longing for complete union with the divine. We're already in unity, but we forget. This sound opens the door and reveals. And then we have Sa again. So we've come a full octave up to Sa above. And this is bliss. This is Alleluia, union and praise for the glorious one. Love divine, the absolute. The sound here invokes remembrance of our true source, who has always held, blessed, and loved us all unconditionally and without reserve. So thank you all
you,
for
Cheryl.
indulging me. I promise I will send you the PDF and a little video demonstrating them with the body prayer that can go with it, which helps to magnify it. So thank you.